So you want to write tests for Etherpad Lite, punk? I think you should be alright. A few bit of background knowledge. Be good if you've used GitHub before, and it'd be good if you know about jQuery. Other than that, we should be pretty good to go. So usual really, jump over to GitHub and you're going to fork the branch from Peter Etherpad Lite, hit fork, and you're going to then go to your fork. There's going to be some hardcore forking action in between, and you're going to clone your Git URL. I'm just going to clone this into this current existing folder. If you're already familiar with Git, then just skip this stage, and we'll basically be cloning, checking out a branch, arrow, creating a new branch, and pulling the front end tests, which is currently in a separate branch, over. So yeah, cool. Okay, so that's done cloning. Now we have the Etherpad Lite file structure available. What we want to do is we want to pull the test framework branch, and you will see if we jump back to Peter Etherpad Lite and then we look at front end tests, you will see that the front end tests are available here. So what we want to do is git pull and the read only, and then feature slash front end dash tests, front end dash tests. Okay, so you'll see there's a merge conflict. What we'll just do here, just for the sake of sanity, is just drop our readme file. You can see there's a lot of new files. Okay, so just a quick clean up that, brings everything in line. Okay, now we have the testing framework files. If I hit up screen first, call it EP, and then run it in there with me, see what happens. So what it should do is run Etherpad Lite after it's downloaded all the dependencies. See there, errored on an npm issue on what looks like YAJSML. Hard to say. So I'm just going to do sudo bin run first time. And that should sort out the issue. Okay, so you'll see that we've just got an error that it's already in use, and this is not a problem. What we just need to do is kill all node instances on this box. I use this as a dev box, so I've probably got a screen running already. Yeah, so I'll kill that screen as well, and I'll jump from there. Okay, so screen list. I'm attached here, so I'm just going to run this again. Okay, so you see it can't get to my dirty file. It's a terrible way of putting it. What we do want to do is sudo chown Jose start recursive. Let me recursive start. No, actually. Okay, don't know what that's all about, but we should be able to change this. Just going to uncomment the user section. Yeah, just leave it as a default password, and I'm just going to change the path to /forward. I think that must be my old version. Okay, so still yes, that. Anyway, it's definitely that. Let's have a look. Dirty. Okay, there we go. So now if I jump to slide 2, which is the box one, you see here we've got Etherpad Lite up and running. This is running the testing framework, so I should be able to go to tests front end. And you notice that at the moment we've got to have trailing forward slash. That's just a bug. Okay, so when I hit this page, it'll actually run through some of these tests. Okay, see it's going through them. It's testing all these settings and whatnot. Just going to quickly look at this. I want to be here. So you can see the what it's doing here is it's running these tests and it's putting the output here. So this is how we access the test framework. This is where we're going to be working, and we're going to be adding some new functionality, and we're just going to do a basic test today. What we will do is we will create a test for clear authorship colours. So basically, if I click this button, are all the elements in the pad contents left with a non-coloured background? Have they all got a plain background? You may find that if I choose to be an extremely light colour, say here, and then do blue, and then change all the way to a really dark colour. I just want to make sure that, so you'll see here that even if I do clear authorship colours, it'll drop the white text and turn it into a black text, and that's important. So really we want to make sure that when we hit clear authorship colours, that the background colour is off and that all the text is black. Essentially it makes it readable. So we've got a few different ways that we can go about doing this. Firstly is to copy a pre-existing test, such as a bold button test, and make some changes to that. But I think that I'd quite like to introduce you to some of the helper objects that Peter's been adding to the framework, and these helper objects will make it easier for you to write tests. Seriously though, we could write this test in like 30 seconds, but I feel that it'd be good if we spend a little bit of time and get to know what we're doing a bit more. So let's jump into source. Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to git checkout B and create a new branch and call it clear authorship colour test spec. Oops, of course we can't do that. We need to give it a sane name, no spaces. Okay, probably could have called that, put it in a separate branch, maybe called it, you know, specs / clear authorship colour or something like that, but for now, I'll do. So tests, front end, specs. This is where we're creating our test. Now, at this moment in time, we have to edit the HTML and add a link. However, this won't exist in the future. What we will do as well, we'll just go in and comment out the other tests. So it just means that we're isolating our test. So button clear authorship. What was it called? Clear authorship colours. Okie dokie. So jump in here, and this then becomes our test, our spec. Okay, so what we can do now is we've started to create like the basics of what we want to do. What we could do is quite happily git push origin, which is our fork, and then the name of the branch we want to push to, which is this. So this is going to push the commits that we've made so far. In fact, we don't want to do that just yet. We want to do git add button clear authorship plus git add index HTML. We'd usually not push index.html to be honest, but so, and then just do a commit, git commit the first stages of a clear authorship colour test. And I'll just show you as that's coming through what that means. So you see it's having actually pushed a lot of mess up. We're not going to worry too much about that now. That mess is because we're running off a separate branch, and you can see here that the branch has come up about a minute ago. We can go into there and we can look through and go tests, front end, specs, and you can see here we've got clear authorships test. So that's good. We know that we can always now put a pull request into so if we were wanting to, we could just do a pull request, and we could say we want to just pull this test into Peters, but we wouldn't do this at this point because we don't want to be modifying index.html, and we would put the pull request into front-end tests. You will see that there's quite a lot of commits, and that's because I pulled the develop branch, and as you can see here's some commits. So basically Peters is a little bit further behind, and that would bring Peters front-end branch up to speed with develop, and it would also push our fixes. So don't worry about too much now. We won't actually send a pull request because this is purely an example for the purposes of demonstration. So let us write a test. So let's make sure we're running this test first. Just bring up our front end test, hit refresh, and we should get we should just only have the clear authorship colours thing come up, and it looks like it's testing the helper. Now it's always useful to test the helper, but in this instance we just want to isolate the page just to use our spec. So okay, great, so you'll see that this is now blank, and that's because there's no test for it to run, and it's basically saying arg. So I'm going to bring up an example on the left hand side of my screen, and I'm going to write a plugin. So describe. I'm going to say a clear authorship button, and you'll notice that I'm not using any fancy IDEs or anything. I just do everything by hand, usually a copy paste, but right now it's fine. So I'm just basically creating a new pad here. So this section won't actually do any assertions, it'll just create a new pad, and there is nothing for it to do, so it's just going to sit there, which is good. And then we can say it clears the background colour from text, clearing authorship colours. Function is this done part is important. You'll notice that needs to be like that, and basically at the end of all, but always at the end, you're going to have something that looks similar to this, where you'll have this done call at the end. Okay, so you see that help is not defined, and that's right because it's helper.newpad that we need, and this creates a new pad. And this basically says timeout after 5 seconds if you don't work. Okay, so you can see here we've got a typo, cult row. Okay, so this runs a test. It's not actually doing anything yet, so it's giving us a yep, it's absolutely fine. So what we should probably do first is say, well, we need to put a line in, you know, send some text. Now the quickest way of doing that is using the send keys plugin. This is available by default, as it's not in the helpers, but it's actually part of the testing framework, and it is pretty simple to use. Literally we just do we will just say var inner dollar, which is helper.pad inner, and var chrome dollar. Now whether or not we'll need chrome, probably not, but we'll get it anyway because it's always good to have it available. So essentially what the trailing dollar means. Okay, sorry about that, my computer decided to run out of disk space, which made it difficult to record any more of this video. So we are now back up and running. and what we're doing is we're creating this tester. So it's great. You'll see that we've brought these inner dollar and Chrome dollars in, and they're just a way of us that we can interact with certain elements. So if we want to bring in, if we want to say find the button, what we do, this is a kind of styling pattern. I can't think of the right word right now, but this is the way that Peter decided that we should define what is a jQuery selector or an object. Clear authorship color button, for example, would have a dollar at the start because it would be the button, and what we'd say is Chrome dollar button icon dash, and then we'll just jump into a pad. Let's duplicate this through. Let's look at this element, and you'll see because essentially this part here is the inner, right? It's the inner, it's where the text is, it's where the change set operations happen, it's where the magic happens, and this kind of is the outer, and this is called Chrome. It's a sucky name, but it's what it's called at the moment. And you can see here that clear authorships is the ID of the button, which is strange. I don't think it actually is. No, it's not. It's this button icon clear authorship. So clear authorship. So this is the button defined here with a dollar at the start. So that means that it's the, we can now access that with say. We can now access that with a dot click. So let's do that. Let's click that button. So we'll do this first, and then we'll bring in some text. Actually, no, we'll bring in some text first. Why not? Okay. So we can say exactly the same thing as what we just did there, right? So this is get a button, gets a terrible word, but and then click the button. Get clear off button as a variable. Again, not great use of programming terms there, but it'll do for now. So what we want to say is get the first text element inside the editable space, which would be var. And remember, we're doing first text element because this is going to be an element. So with jQuery access, so in a dollar div span, and we want the first line, so the first text element, and then we want to send that a key. So easily done. We just do first text element dot send keys, and let's follow our style. Line 1, send line 1 to the pad. So that's just going to basically write line 1 into the pad. Really nothing fancy. Jump in here, let's see what errors we've got. We should have some. Interesting that it's prompted us. Hit OK there. You can see that it actually cleared it. So it's done what we basically expected. Slight issue with the prompting may cause the framework to fail, because I don't think that the framework can handle the prompt. We can test that. We can just hit F5. We can wait 5 seconds, and it should fail. It should fail. Thank you, Windows, for being a fool. Okay, well, despite the fact that it took best part of 14 seconds, it didn't fail. I may have bitten off more than I can chew with this test. So, I think we should test the undo button. And we shall make the relevant changes. So you'll see every now and again you run into a problem with the test framework where it, because of the design of Etherpad Lite, struggles to handle the requirements. So, change of plan. We're now no longer writing a clear authorship button test. We're going to do undo button. Undo some typing. It's getting late now. I'm getting tired. So the way that we test this is we'd essentially say get the value before, has it been changed? Yes. Click the undo button, has it been changed? Yes. Blah blah. So you got two different tests, which is going to be pretty simple to do. We already have a delete, keystroke delete, so I mean it's going to be pretty similar to that one. What we want to basically say is let's send a foo. So let's get the value before, right? So var original value equals, we can do first text element dot text. Okay, so get the original value, modified value equals first text element dot text, modified value, and then we can say expect modified value to not be not sure if I need to. No, we can do to be I need to just check with the expect. Right, not to be. So we expect that the value will have changed, essentially. So original value. I could have done that the other way around, but this will do for now. So expect the value to change. Simple as that. Jump in. Okay, we can now tell it to click the undo button. You can see how easy you can just switch between tests as well, by and how much kind of not repeat code there is, but just ability to reference other plugins to write yours. Other test specs to write your test spec. Really simple. Okay, so it's gonna write that, and then what we're gonna say is, and then get it again. So var final value equals, and then this, and then expect this final value after an undo to be okay, great. So you can see here that this expect that it got on the last one was after the undo button was clicked, but it got the old value, and that's because the content collector on Etherpad Lite runs. The content collector makes things interesting. Essentially, it means that what you see on the UI isn't going to be what you do get. So how we see that is we insert debugger statements. Okay, so you'll see here that the value is nothing, it's null. So at the time of final value, and we can also do this, we can use console.logs, really simple, console.log final value. And you can just use the console. You see here that the final value, according to this, is foo welcome to Etherpad Lite, but in the UI it's welcome to Etherpad Lite, and that's because the content collector is running and it's taking longer to update the DOM. Now if you run into this problem, then there is a solution for it, and it's not massively graceful, but it works. It'll take some time until you have the right kind of solution, but it's possible to do it, and I shall demonstrate that now. So once we've clicked this button, we then need to kind of wait a few seconds. So we could just do a set timeout and be hyper ghetto, but what we're going to do is wait for, it's part of the helper, and we do this. We say what we're essentially saying is wait for something, and then when you're done and do all the juicy good stuff, and then finish. So what we need to do is set, basically once we've got to this point and it's clicked, we really need to kind of wait a little while, but what we need to do is for it to kind of loop over something, you know, to keep going. We need to tell it, well, what am I waiting for? What am I looking to change? So we're going to expect the undo button to have the original length, which is probably the easiest thing. So we can say we should probably get we can say return on. So if it is basically we wanted to return a true statement, so we could say inner dollar div span dollar first dot text equals original value. So basically once the undo button's fired, once the original value is then in place, it'll perform the rest of the test. So you see here we've got no method text, so inner dollar first, and that's because okay. So it got to the point where it's hit the debugger again, which is good because that means that it completed the test and it expected foo welcome to Etherpad Lite, which was our final value. And you can see that by looking in here, foo welcome to Etherpad Lite, to be the original value. So you can still see here that despite the fact that the original value, so we can just do this, make sure that the original value is actually set. Yes, so we can do console.log and we can say, you know, is this true or is this false? I mean, because we need to know if it's false at some point, which it should be. It went straight to being true. So is that because I'm just gonna is that because first text element was already defined? So because it's changed, we could actually just do this. We could say there we go. Get rid of these console logs. So there's very few comments in here, and we'll do a quick walk through the test next. Just a quick refresh on there, and that looks good. Everything's out the console log. You really don't want to leave stuff in the console log if you can help it. So what we do first is we describe the test. So we describe as the undo button. We then create a pad with some timeout. We say give it a bit of an example. It does undo some timing. It removes typing. Sorry, I don't think we use Chrome at any point. Yes, we do use Chrome. Like I said, inner is the text area where text is edited. Chrome is the outer area with the tools and whatnot. We get the first element, which is the first editable area. Essentially the first line from the editor itself. We then get the original value of that line. In this case it's welcome to Etherpad Lite. we send the keys foo. Key presses as foo as one item. We then check to see what the modified value is. We get that modified value. We expect it to not be the same as the original value, which then it does, it passes. We then define our undo button, so we know what to click. We then click the undo button. We then say once this value is the same as the original value. So if, for example, if we did this, for example, it should fail. Okay, great. And that's because this never returns true. This is saying only return true and proceed with the rest of the test if the value is the same as the original value. Because I commented out the undo button, it never actually made it through. So then we say once you have returned true for this statement, then continue and get the final value, which in this case is welcome to Etherpad Lite, and expect that to be the same as the original value. And then we have to have a done at the end, and that done is essentially just to make sure that it runs all the scripts. So let's do a final refresh. You see the test is written and everything is all good. You've learned how to send keys to a pad. You've learned how to click on a button. You've learned how to compare values, and you've learned how to use the wait for helper. All in all, I didn't expect this to go as deep as it's gone, and you, with what you've learned from watching this video, you should be able to write pretty much any test now. So good fun. I don't think that made any sense. Have fun, good luck, and I'm hoping to see some pull requests with a bunch of tests written. Thank you.